What's up, y'all? It's your boy, Danny Grem here, lead singer of The Grems, and I'm told there's a new Elio video out today. New Elio. Very excited for the new Elio, and yeah, I think I'm gonna sit down and check that out now. I guess so. Yeah, you tell me what you think. You let me know what you think, and yeah, thank you, Danny Grem. Also, check out our new album. Thanks. Hey y'all, Elio here with a new video. This time I'm playing Bug Hash in the Altered Trading Card game. There are a ton of cards that I'm really excited about in the new set, but the Grems is towards the top. Mostly, I just love the aesthetic of it. I love the name, I love the art, I love the Grems. And I love how flexible of a card it is. I'm a huge fan of modal cards, cards that let you choose multiple different options so they can be flexible. And the Grems does a great job of being able to always be relevant. Its floor is decent, and its ceiling is great, either taking out a 3 cost for 2 mana while also providing a body, or making a 3/4/4 of stats for just 2 mana. To make use of the latter mode, we need permanents we are happy to sacrifice. Bug Out Bag works great here when played from reserve, as the bag is immediately useless once you have let the bug out. Cylinder can also be great, though it is so great in play that we're often only sacrificing it to make our final push. We can make further use of those cylinder counters with Bug Fix. For 1 mana from hand, we can start to get a big push of power, and with Brass Bug Hive, all of our bugs are getting bigger, and we're making perpetual fuel for the Bug Fix to be able to eat. Now that we've got the Hive, we've got to go all in on the bots. Dredger Drone is one of many new robots in this set, but it's the one that I'm prioritizing here because it will act as a pseudo Axiom Salvager replacement that benefits from robot synergy. Capella is an old classic, but with our robot emphasis feels stronger here than I normally like her in Subhash. And finally, to top it all off, Ogun is probably the best card in the deck, giving consistent power to your board no matter where you play it from. Given our emphasis on robots in the Hive, we're also happy to play a Turbo Hive strategy, and Martingale and Foundry Mechanic can both accelerate a Brass Bug Hive as early as day 2 with their support abilities. Towards the end of the list, we want some staples and fuel. Ada gives us power plus card draw, and Amelia is one of the more reliable things you can put into the reserve with Subhash. Finally, to wrap up the list, we have Small Step Giant Leap, Magical Training, and Isatok. Sorry, I get confused sometimes. All 3 of those cards are actually just different copies of Hooked. I maintain that this card is incredibly underrated, especially in Subhash. It can force lane wins, make double lane wins from your opponents impossible, and it draws cards at a rate very similar to Magical Training. This card has got me like a fish on the line. And then our uniques. A Martingale that lends a helping hand, Baba Runescribe, and a power stacked Anansi that can benefit from our army of robots. That's it. That's the deck. So yeah, let's jump into some games. Okay, up against Rin. We will keep this Runescribe. I generally think Ogun's like the best card in the deck, and I also think Cylinder is fantastic early, so I'm probably keeping those 3. Capella, I think, is fine, but actually often overrated in Subhash. I'm not trying to get the free value out of that as much as I am trying to make sure that I put my relatively high amount of power on the board while not running out of gas. And Capella sometimes makes it so you run out of gas. Or sequence things a little bit weird. So like I mean I like Capella a lot, but I'm not auto keeping it in my opening hand. Martingale without the Hive is whatever, and Dredger Drone I think just isn't as powerful as these other options. So I'll do this. I'll do a bug, scribe, split, put power into both lanes, and draw a card. Here, I'll definitely like to keep 1 hooked around, so with no Hive in hand, I'll mana this Mechanic. And I've been seeing more like Little Mice in green, and it's really good against stopping things in my reserve. So I won't expose this Ada if I don't need to. Instead, I'll put the Cylinder in reserve, which is still value, by putting a landmark into reserve. And if they do sabotage me, at least I get to draw cards on my turn with Ada Lovelace. They play this unique Ortis Liaison, which will be drawing them cards for probably quite a while with this Munadrid. And with that in mind, they only have 1 mana left. Could be a Spindle Harvesters, which won't put any mountain on the board. So I can go Ada left and then Cylinder it to hopefully take a double advance this turn. So they're also drawing some cards and keeping some stuff around, but now we have a 2-lane advantage, which means that in the worst case, we can just dance them down, taking 1 lane at a time, and win the game that way. That being said, it is Rin, so I want to take my double advances while I can, because sometimes Rin is on Festival, and I can't dawdle around too much if I can afford to, or if I can afford not to, and rushing them down as quickly as possible to avoid Festival killing me is good, because I don't really have answers for Festival on the deck. Here, I will keep this other Cylinder. Hooked is going to be important for dancing down, and love Amelia, but I think I want to keep the Ogun more. And I'll bug the Cylinder, which means that like the best thing that I can put into reserve is, I guess, Ogun. No, I guess Hooked with the Ada Lovelace. Now I do have the option here of, do I try to fight over the left, or do I just use this turn to force a right win? And when I'm going first, and so I don't have the initiative, and I already start basically spending a mana with Subhash, I'm often just going to take this force 1 lane path rather than try to fight over something that I may not be able to get and risk them taking a 2-0 lead to make up the ground that I just gained. So going right with Ada is hopefully going to put me in a more reliable position of actually being able to not take a 2-0 loss. But here I can, I got rid of my Cylinder with the Requiem. I could prep my own Cylinder, putting me at 4 grass. If they play this Muna Druid, that means they're not keeping the Ortis Liaison around. And then if they play a Harvester or a Noosh, they can tie or win, but at least we stop them from keeping the Liaison around and we reset things. So I think I'd be okay with that. The other option is that I drop a Bug Out Bag or an Ogun, in which case I get 1 more power, but then I'm overflowing my reserve, and they don't even need to play anything out. They can just say, okay, you take that lane, I take this one, and I'm running the resource for now. So I'm going to use the Cylinder, which will give me a decent amount of power here, and hopefully they don't have the grass to beat me, but they drop a Noosh, so either they're making misplays or they have it. And indeed, they have 5 power there, so they take the lanes back. The one thing that we could have done differently would be to play like a Bug Out Bag or something, or a Ogun even. And in that case, we would have had enough power here, not just to tie, but to beat. But in that case, they wouldn't have played these things out, and we would have just overflowed on reserve and traded lanes. So I think we made the right move either way. I'd rather keep 2 Oguns than 2 bags, so a mana on one of the bags. The Oguns are effectively 3 2/2s at a minimum, and there are 4 3/3s with 1 bug from the bag out, whereas the bags are always 2 2/2s. They do provide food for Grems, but we don't have any Grems. So we'll start by just doubling up on our lanes here. Maybe we don't double up because they're starting with all this power here. I think we just do the same thing again where we try to fight over just the right lane. And because they don't have any anchor anymore, maybe next turn we can go into a place where they're not starting with power on the board, and thus we can do a fair fight that way. We have so much power over here, we can just gain counters with the Keelan Cylinder. They're clearly not trying to fight over it. And they do use a Beauty Sleep to keep around the Persephone. So once again, we're probably not taking the left lane next turn, but let's just keep going down the ladder. As is often the case with the Rin, they're having to put so many things in reserve that they're going to have to discard things. But the Contortionist is a great addition to Rin because it helps with that problem of overflowing all the time. At least this doesn't contribute to your stats. Now here, if they double advance, they're still 1 away. If I play the bug, I'm getting 6 power over here. We're fighting over mountain water, which, unless they have another Persephone, they're not beating us on water. It's very unlikely they do. They might double advance and get the mountain, but I think that it's worth playing out the hive. And so that's what I'll do. On mana the Ogun, I'll put the hive in reserve with the Subhash so that I'm not overflowing. And I'll play the hive out immediately and just put a ton of power into the right lane. And I have so many counters on this cylinder that it's going to last the rest of the game. So no matter what they do, I'll use the cylinder to put counters on something here. And because this isn't a grass lane, they can't use the undergrowth. So even if they play out this liaison, it wouldn't be enough water. Another aloe vera will be enough water, but then not enough mountain. So similar to how we thought it might play out, they double advance and we single advance. They're one away, but now they're starting with a lot less on the board, and we're starting with 6 power. They do still have the aloe vera, but I think that we likely have enough. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 with Subhash. Capella would be a 3/3. I think that we want the Grems. I mean, so we're definitely not putting Capella into the reserve with Subhash. We don't have the liberty of the luxury of being able to spend time doing that. So if we keep Capella, it's because it's a 4/4/1, which is actually huge. But I think I forget that this gets the boost from this and just think of it as a 3/3/0, which is good, but not as good. And so instead we put mana the Capella. That being said, I think it's probably actually just the worst option here, right? Like Bugfix itself is a much needed 1 mana play. With us spending 2, 4, 6, 7, we have 1 mana left over, and Bugfix being able to turn a cylinder counter into a 3/3/3 is something that we can only do with this 1 mana with Bugfix. And then the Grems is going to be making 3/4/4 of power for 2 mana, which is slightly more than Capella. It can also fight over the water lane, which is where they already have stats. So the Capella is great here, but it's just not as good as the other options. And so the Capella goes back to mana. We'll bug the Grems. Lore does make this aloe vera bigger, but we'll split these for now. With aloe vera, or with Ogun and a cylinder counter, this is already basically tied. We want to play out all our bugs first, so that basically means Ogun and Grems before Bugfix and Grems before Ogun, and then the hooked can come anywhere within that, but we can't play Ogun until we do those things. So because Grems requires us sacking the cylinder, that also means that we need to play the Bugfix first. So we'll open up with the Bugfix. They play a Simbi. We're currently ahead on water, at least, so that if we both advanced and we can advance here, then it'd be enough. But now is when we have to use the cylinder for its counter, because we're about to eat that cylinder with the Grems to make a bug. I'd like to play the Ogun to the left where the grass will matter, so I'll start stacking this power, and especially with this giving 2 water, in the right side with the Grems. And the hooked will always let us move something, but it won't be necessary, as I think this is only adding 5 power to the board, but I'm about to add my own 5, and that's just more. So yeah, we take it. GG. Okay, up against Nevanka. I used to think Nevanka was a bit of a meme, but she's felt very strong lately, especially all these kind of control-y builds. I'm afraid of the dice, so I don't think I will be playing her, but she always seems really good versus me. Here, this Anansi is powerful enough that I want to keep it in hand. I don't have any fuel for the Bugfix, so that's 1 card in and 1 card out. The opening turn, we are probably going to want to play something for 2 mana, and that's not going to be Ogun. We want to keep that around. And I don't think Amelia is good enough to keep in hand as a 3rd option, though there is like the idea that I can be doing Anansi this turn. I bug the Amelia and I play bug out back from hand, and then next turn I have a 1 mana play that lets me curve out nicely, where I get one from Subhash and then a 2 mana card from hand. But I don't think that actually really sequences well for like the first turn, and I'd rather keep this Grems with the bug out bag. This gives me the flexibility of making a lot of potential power with the bag. And if I first make my bug in a lane, then I see what they do. I can either decide whether or not I'm playing the Grems out and filling up my reserve and getting a cheap advance, or I can just try to fight over this left lane with the bag, and one of three things will happen. They discard this with Nevanka, and I win the lane, but I no longer have the fuel for the Grems. Unfortunate, but more fortunate than unfortunate, as I'd be taking a 2-0 lead. Or they get it anchored, in which case the bag stays in play, or they grow it, in which case the bag stays in play. And I'm fine with both of those. I really like the bag staying in play as it's future fuel for the Grems, so I'm just going to play out the bag. Hope that they don't have a magical training, which if they did, they should play it before they do the Nevanka, and they did not. They got the best option for them here, though, which is growing that, which we're fine with. We're trading lanes with them. We have food for the Grems. Easy bug fix here. I have no fuel for it, and I love this Rune Scribe. We're first, so we can just drop the Scribe immediately. I'm going to have to be trading somewhere here, and it's ultimately going to be up to them on which one, most likely. But I'm hoping that, maybe they go left here and block this, which would make sense from their perspective, since even if they get the anchor, they still advance. It makes more sense than going to the right. But it's up to them. But I want to keep this bug out bag in play, so hopefully whatever ends up happening this turn, it keeps the bag here. And indeed, they play a unique Flamel that is very good. Be trading lanes, returning their magical training to hand. And they have drawn a lot of cards, but we're still trading 1 for 1. Things are okay. Pink has so much good removal. I only want to do the Hive if I'm really desperate. But between Cloth Cocoon, X marks the spot, it's just really risky to spend 6 mana on a play like that. But now I will make the Amelia into a bug on the right side. They play Nisei there. I can play Amelia on the left side, and then I have a Nancy available if I need it. Or I can play Grems or the Hook, depending on... I can be responsive to what they do. So we're tied here. They're ahead here, and they have Nevanka available to them. I could have Nancy on the right, though I'm kind of hoping that maybe I can keep this for the later game where I can get a lot of power out of it, and I can get a trigger off of this boost trigger and return something to my hand. And Grems doesn't do anything here. I mean, I could Grems on the left, but then I get rid of the bag that I'm really trying to save it for. So what I can do is just hooked on the right on this elf. They then use the support ability on their Paper Herald, which with Nevanka will be enough to tie us, but at least we're not exposing our Anansi to this fleeting ability on the Flamel. So that we'll get multiple plays out of this in the future. But they were going to be overflowing the reserve anyway, so they kind of had to use that Herald ability. They're either using the Herald or the Flamel. Maybe it would have been better to force the Flamel. I don't know. We now have even more food for the Grems, which feels great. And we have a lot of just strong cards in our hand. I think that this hooked is what has to go back. And I can finally afford to play 2/2 cost and then maybe the Cylinder, so I can throw the Grems out into reserve and finally make the bugs with it this turn. And I'll just go heavy on the left side here. And now we can either have Anansi left over, or we can have Ada plus Cylinder. We don't have a lot of information from them yet, and so playing Anansi would be somewhat foolish. And playing Cylinder first keeps the hooked play available to us. So we'll play Cylinder first and put a counter on this right bug. Now we can either Ada or we can hooked. I really want to get out of this grass. It's been such a hard lane for us, and so much of our stuff is lower in grass, so rather than try to very softly fight over it with a 1 power lead, I'm just going to hook this over to the left, in which case we'll still be winning by 2 in water, and hopefully we can win this right lane with the 3 or 4 power. 3 power, sorry, I don't have a cylinder available to me. I don't know why I thought that I did. But everything still holds there. They anchor the Mage Dancer, which is probably mixed feelings for them. They will no longer be blocking us, but they will be keeping this around for another round, so win some, you lose some. They draw a million more cards with Magical Training, and that hooked allows us to double advance here, bringing us back to a tie game. Now this is tough. A lot of great cards in hand. These are all really good, but I'm really not at the point when I'm ready to not mana. I still need to be matching a lot of what they're doing, so I do think I need a mana this turn. The Grems is particularly good if I sacrifice one of these cylinders, and I just don't think I'm ready to do that yet. And that makes it a slightly easier choice to get rid of than these other cards, but none of these are easy choices, especially since we are manning up to 7, which is higher than we sometimes do without a hive play. The Ada Lovelace may be important for keeping us with fuel. And so, yeah, I get rid of the Grems here. It's never a problem that we have lots of good choices in our hand. But it does make it more likely that we regret things in the middle of the night. But they are first, so to dodge this from getting hit by like a Tanuki, I'll just put the cylinder in reserve. And because they're starting with power on the board, that's going to be at least 3. I may just fight over the left this turn, so I'll start by going left and see what they do. I can then match this with a cylinder. It's a lot of boost. And they play a unique. If your reserve is empty, draw a card, and he's big. We're fighting over mountain here, so we're only 2 behind. And a Nazi would only be 2. Ogin's also going to be 2, so I'll do the Ogin for now. Ooh, a rough hit from them. They hit a 1, losing the Trickster. So we would have been tying this lane, but instead I am winning this lane, which is quite good for me, and also just lets me stack counters on this in case that ends up coming up. As said, I can't afford to keep hives versus pink, especially not at this point. I want to get as many plays out of this Anansi as possible, so I'll bug the Ogin. And I can just play like a huge Anansi on the left and then stack everything else on the right and try to double advance this turn. They return the Snowball Commando to their hand, which will let them exhaust something. It's a little scary. Now, if they have Off You Go, they kill the Anansi, and I don't think it matters where we play the Ada. We'd stack up counters there. Yeah, either way, with an Off You Go, we can basically... Well, no. So if they had Off You Go, and I played Ada Lovelace to the left, then, yeah, no matter what we do, we're only going to be either tying with them or trading advances with them. So we play Ada, we play her to the right, where she contributes more stats. We get a Snowball Commando out, and there is the Off You Go, which is, I think, the most powerful thing that they could have in this position, which it doesn't matter how we use our cylinders, or well, it does. We basically have the option of either saying we're not going to advance either of us, or both going to advance 1. And because we still have a powerful play, but we're down on resources with them, I think I have the resources to fight for maybe 1 more round, but 2 more rounds is going to be very tough for me because I'll basically have nothing left. And so because of that, I'm going to say, let's both advance 1, and let's try to limit the amount of remaining game that there is to play. Maybe we're forced to go to arena, but I certainly can't do 2 rounds in the arena. I need a shorter game. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Not going to mean anything, though, because it doesn't give me any extra plays. I will put the bag on the right. I'll bug the bug out bag onto the right. I am just going to immediately play out this Anansi so that I can at least try to get a 2 mana for 4 mana trade. And it's as big as it is going to be during that time. And so now I'm up on mana, I'm up on power, it's a good position to be in. The only thing is that I really want to double advance this turn. So I'll start with some sort of bug. I have 2 on mountain and I have 2 on water. I'm not higher on forest, but this sets it up so that if we do go to arena, I have more power. So I think that this is a little bit safer. And yeah, that's not going to be enough. With this, we can just play out the Ogun, and the double cylinder will be more than enough to give us the power to win the game. Cool. GG. Okay, up against Sierra, the Bug Queen, the Bug King, going at it. So I definitely want to keep this unique Rune Scribe, and I'll be playing it first. If I go second, depending on what I'm playing it, sometimes I won't do that since I want to make sure that it doesn't get sabotaged before I play it, but it'll be safe here. Definitely going to keep at least 1 Grem. And if I wasn't playing it Sierra, I'd probably keep another permanent so that I have food for it in case I want to make use of the bug side of this. But because I am playing it Sierra, and Sierra can really thrive off of permanents, then I want to keep both of these Grems to maybe get a lot of value there, which does mean I'm putting back these cards, including the Cylinder, which is really strong early on to get just a ton of value. But I'm hoping that that will be the right play against Sierra, preventing them from getting longer-term value. But I will start off by just splitting the lanes with this Bug and Scribe. Okay. They do use 2 cards here to make us go 1-1. Alright, here I'm going to keep the Grems for the same reason. Definitely keep this Ada Lovelace. Being able to draw more cards is always good, and so that means I'm either putting back the Foundry mechanic or the drone. I don't have any hives in hand or something to accelerate to, and so I'm not like super thrilled about the 1-drop there. It would let me do 2 cost card plus the mechanic, and so I think it's pretty valid to keep it for that reason, to get a 2-card turn. But I'd rather keep this drone as something that I can put in the reserve with the Ada and start getting boost on it for its own value. They go right here, and they don't resupply. I am going to match them here, which will take the lead now. We still have a mana left, so we can potentially draw a 1-drop like our 3rd Cylinder or something, though we don't get that, we get Capella. And they play Bug Fix. If they're afraid of the 1-drop, then they'll go here. If they're not, they'll just take the lane over here, but they are a little scared. So we get the trade here. And once again, we're 1-1. Interestingly, they're playing the common designer drone. The rare one does let you discount permanents. Okay, I'm putting back the common Capella there. I can always use Bug Fix with this Dredger drone, and Ogun's fantastic. I do plan on just playing 2-2-drops this turn, maybe a Bug Fix and a 2-drop, actually, but I certainly don't want to do like 1 counter on the drone, remove it with Bug Fix, and then play a drone without resupplying. So I'll just get 2 counters on this drone now, and I'm still trying to hide these Grems in hand. I don't want to reveal them because I kind of want to bait them out to play like any permanents, and then be able to use these to remove them, rather than put this out there and then they just start manning the good targets. But it's possible this is the turn that I play a Grems from hand, but I'll open up with a Bug Fix to split the lanes, and then depending on what they do, I'll either drop Ogun or a copy of the Grems. And that's enough for us to at least block them with an Ogun, and force them to once again play 2 cards to trade 1-1. Though, it's not an actual advantage for us, because we are kind of using a card for, like, even when we play 1 card, we're using the other card to make the bug. So we're a little bit ahead just because of our card draw, but otherwise it's a pretty even game here. I'll put back the Martingale here. There's not a strong incentive to keep it without the landmarks in hand that we're seeing, and I definitely want to keep these Grems and this hooked, though this may finally be the time that I have to put a Grem out. And they play their own hive, which we'd like to see ours. We should be able to definitely single advance this turn, maybe double advance. So they have 6. If we played a Dredger Drone, you can think of that as 3, because we use the resupply, so we'd be at 5 there. And then 2 Ogun counters pushes that up to 7 on the mountain. So we can actually put Ogun left and Dredger Drone right if we start with the Dredger. And we'll get that resupply there. So they have a strong future ahead of them with this Brass Bug Hive, but we'll get 2 lanes ahead of them here. And now we kind of have the option of, do we try to get parity with them playing our own Brass Bug Hive, or do we just push for the win with like this hooked and stuff and just fight for lanes? I'm always a little bit afraid that if I push for the win against Sierra here, or if I don't get an advance here, then I'm screwed, because then they'll just have so much value. That being said, we do have basically 4 plays of hooked, which could make it a lot easier for us to maintain control over a lane. And with that in mind, I think that, the primary risk to that is just that they don't have, they're able to slow play characters. But I think that that's probably the play. If we hadn't drawn this hooked, Hive is probably the move to make sure that we're set up for the long game. But you can easily imagine a game where we now mana a Grem, we throw a bug out here, they will probably split their bug lanes, and then we start just playing hooks to everything that they play to force a 1-1 trade, and now we're only one lane away, which with more hooks left over would be enough to win. That being said, I think that I saw this hooked at the end of last round, and this hive at the end of last round, and so I kind of got in my head that I was going to be playing for the long game of that hive, and I instead just choose to put out 5 power this turn with the Subhash ability plus a hive, playing for my own late game and making sure that I have like the same ability to put out power. Now that we know that they play the second hive, there's a question of like, okay, was this still the right move? Or which one was the right move if we suspected this hive? And they will be making at least 2 bugs to our 1 bug a turn, which does make it a lot harder to come back with the hooked. So I'm not sure what's right here. I'm curious what you think, and I probably need to think about it more, but I certainly think that it would be tough without this hive out now. But hooked is very powerful, so you shouldn't underestimate it. We also would be drawing a lot of cards from playing all those hooks out, so we'd have more tools to us. I'm pretty sure hooked is the right play. And when I say hooked, I mean not playing the hive and just going for 1 lane at a time. But I didn't believe in that enough, because I am weak of will and weak of heart. But now I'll play towards a game where hopefully I can play this Ogun twice with the Martingale, and I'll start by splitting my lanes to match his, putting the Martingale in reserve where it's much better. I'm going to be planning on playing probably all my 2 costs this turn plus the cylinder, which maybe with that in mind I should have actually put the cylinder in reserve. But having the Martingale there, I think, is actually the more flexible play, as it does let us play this Martingale for an extra power if we need to in order to win the lanes. We'll see what they do this turn, and we'd like to threaten a double advance. We have a lot of kind of secret power, or at least sudden power available to us if they don't have really like their own Ogun and their own ways to push advantage. But it's very unlikely that they'll be able to double advance here, because we have this hooked in our back pocket that will be able to take out power from whatever lane that we had the best fight in. But for now, I'm just splitting my lanes, still allowing myself the ability to kind of double advance. Now here, I think the right play, and I could just hooked. If I hooked, I'm almost certainly winning this left lane, and if they do put anything else out there, then Ogun will make sure that we do. The alternative thing is that I play Ogun into the right lane, and if they don't have a follow-up here, like if they have another Brass Bug Hive in hand, for example, we could actually use the Martingale. So we'd be at 7, 8, 9, 10 with the Martingale. We'd basically be able to tie on one lane and advance on another. So we'd be in this position where we'd have used the Martingale, which is probably okay, and we'd still have the hooked available. So I think the right play is to play the Ogun. That's not what we do. Sometimes we make the wrong play on this channel because the game is hard, and sometimes you're going to make the wrong play. But we use the hooked. It's still a fine play, and ultimately it doesn't matter because they did have another character, which is this Ogun, which is going to force a play out of us. I do choose to use the Ogun over the bug fix. The Ogun puts more power out, but my thinking with this is that it lets me keep the 1 mana bug fix option in hand, and I plan on double playing this Ogun next turn anyway with the Martingale removing fleeting from it. So keeping the cheaper option in hand. Here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from Subhash. I will not mana anything this turn since I can just play everything out. And I think that you either want to bug the bag or the mechanic here. Because there is this threat of a arena next turn where we have one more turn, and hopefully I can go into that turn with an extra Ogun and force them to play this Ogun this turn. I think I want to get the most bugs out of this bag, and so like I should keep that in hand so I can play it from hand and then from reserve next turn, and thus put the Foundry mechanic in reserve now. But I choose in the moment to play out the bug out bag, which will let me hide the fact that I have a 2/1 drops in hand, which can be sneaky. And that itself has its own value. Being able to obscure my plays is always a potential advantage. Is it a large enough one here? I don't know. But I do know that I need to play the bug out bag early because I need to play out all my robots before I play the Ogun. Basically, like my sequencing this game is going to be forced to be, or this turn, a bug maker, Ogun, Martingale, and then Foundry mechanic. I could swap the mechanic and the Martingale if need be, though there's not a lot of cases where I'd want to do that. But if that bug bag was in my hand, then that would be the case. And so like that's all theory, but I played mechanic out early just to stall, leaving the other bug fix in hand, which I'll now be forced to play now because I need to order these this way. And they once again have one card in hand with the Ogun. We're very much potentially winning if they didn't have something to play, but it was their own bug fix. So it's looking now like we will be going to Arena, and I'll play out my Ogun and Martingale in a way to force that. It's not a horrible position to be going in. We will have a Ogun that they do not have, but they will have this drill mill who can sabotage. So presumably, that's likely to take the Ogun, and if they do that, then the arena will depend on what we actually draw in our hand. I can't really afford to mana anything here. I mean, I could if I maned the Ogun. So they have a sabotage effect. If I maned the Ogun, then I'd have 9 mana, and I could Brass Bug Hive plus Bug Fix, assuming they sabotage the Ogun off the rip. And that would be 3, 7, 3, 10 power to their... Wait, no, so that would be 3, 6, 10, 14 power. 13 power. Because this one comes smaller and has to take away a power, or a counter. And they're making 3, 6, 8, 11. If they have 3 there, any bug maker, for example, that'd be enough to push it over. And that basically means having anything relevant in hand. So I think I need to hope that they go for a non-drill mill line and just play out the Oguns. So I'll put the hive in reserve, and they actually put 2 counters on the drill mill, which I don't know if they're trying to go to another round with the arena. It may be just a mistake, and if it's a mistake, maybe this game we look at it a little differently. But we bug the hive, and we feel good with our double Oguns and 3 bugs to put counters on. it basically makes these Ogans into 5/4/4s for 2, which is a lot of stats and is going to be very difficult for our opponent to match. So if we had done the Hive line and they did play like this drill mill, you can imagine them having basically a additional at least 2 of stats, which would be 14, 14, 14, which would be more than our Hive plan would have been able to do. So I think that if this plays slightly differently, and they only have a sticky note seals to finish off. I think if this plays slightly differently, we lose. But a really close, great game up to this point, and we take the W as it's given to us. And because we didn't get sabotage, we were able to put out a huge amount of power on the board, which, even if that wasn't a sticky note seals, not much is going to be able to, for 3 mana, match 4/4/4. So we take the W, and we move on. Those are the games. I like playing this kind of bug-heavy Subhash. It was definitely fun. I don't know if like going this heavy on the synergy is the most powerful way to do it, but I do know that the Grems will be a key part of every Subhash deck going forward. I really liked the way that Subhash worked with the cylinder, and the bug-out bag worked pretty nice too, now that the Grems is a staple. Yeah. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with some new decks.